It's the Cooper and Anthony Show.
She is a behavioral relationship expert. Her latest book is Overcoming Insecure Attachment, 8 Proven Steps to Building Healthier, Happier Relationships. Please welcome our guest, Tracy Crossley. Hello, Tracy.
Hello. Thanks for having me on board. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. Well, listen, before we get to the book, which I have a million questions about the book, of course, I'd like your take on something. I love when I have a fellow smarty pants on the show, because Anthony's kind of dumb between you and me.
And I'm a guy.
And he makes fun of my PhD, calls it a PhD, but it's only because I don't get a chance to share a brain with another pretty smart brain. So I'm really happy you're here, so we can have a normal conversation, not a dumb one like I would have with him.
I dumb you down at least 10, 20 IQ points.
Yeah, he takes it down very low, very low.
Good to know.
So here's what I wanted. I don't know if you've noticed this going on kind of in the news / pop culture lately, I think is the best way to put it. So there's this documentary coming out, and I watch a lot of television, just so you know. And there's a documentary coming out that they've been pushing like crazy about Playboy. And about all the women of Playboy, all the years, Hef's assistant, all the girls from Girls Next Door, if you watched that show on E! Back in the day. And there's 2 stories going on. One is that they seem like Hef was horrible to them. The whole thing was abusive. Celebrities would show up and do whatever they wanted, and that these women were basically victims. They weren't really playmates. They weren't, even though, frankly, some of them knew what they were getting into, just FYI. But for the most part, the portrayal is that they really were victimized by a lot of the men that either worked at Playboy or came to the mansion or whatever. And I contrast that with a story I saw in the news today about this really empowered girl on TikTok. I was watching all of her videos, and she's awesome. She's a sex worker, and she has this OnlyFans page, and she wanted to tell us that she makes $36,000 a month off of men, off of men who just can't keep it in their pants, but she likes that because that helps her. So, but I feel like that sends a mixed message to young girls, which I think is really confusing. It sends the message, men are dangerous, stay away, or we have control over our sexuality, have at it. So I'd love your take on this.
That is awesome. I mean, just that whole scenario you just set up, awesome. So,
it's a lot for us women to deal with.
Well, I'll tell you why, because we have this idea that things are black and white. Okay. It's either this or it's that. It's either right or it's wrong. And that is subjective. It is not objective. Obviously, everybody's got a different perception, but going with the whole Playboy thing. So I'm not real big on the whole idea that it's poor victim, poor me, because there's a cost, right? There's a cost to everything. If I go to the store, I'm not going to get my milk for free. So it's the same thing with the whole Playboy illusion that, somehow a dude who's on TV, what do you have, 3 girlfriends at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's okay because it's Hugh Hefner, right? So we give him a lot of outs. We're giving him excuses. It looks kind of like, ooh, that'd be really cool. Yeah, that'd be really cool to be with a 90-year-old man. What are you thinking? You're in your 20s, right? So anyway, so you get all of that. And to me, you know what you're getting into. So if he's abusive or if other men are abusive, it's a choice you keep making. You're not a sex slave. You haven't been abducted, kidnapped into this. You have made a conscious decision to say, this is something I want to do as my career. At any point in time, just like in an abusive relationship, you can get out. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, or, oh, I'm just going to snap my fingers and I want to get out today, because there's always a lot, I think people have writing on these decisions, right? It's like, oh, what am I going to do if I leave? I really like certain aspects. I'll talk myself into this isn't so bad and I'll stay longer.
And then you hear all these different stories about women, like what's going on right now with Chris Noth. I mean, that whole thing is weird. Like, these women are coming forward after 20 years and there were warning signs there and they kept moving forward. I feel like if you're a celebrity, you get away with a lot more than regular men. So what's the takeaway? Like, what's the message for regular women and regular dating?
I think there's a few things. One is we live, I hate to say this, no offense, Anthony, but we live in a patriarchal society. And that's not like,
I have no idea what that word means.
He doesn't know what those words mean. You're good.
Okay.
I'm a patriot, damn it. I love my country.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is,
Nope,
for most of us,
not what it means.
yeah, we don't really know. Like, as an example, as a girl who's maybe 13, 14, 15 years old, you're walking down the street, construction guys are catcalling you, things like that. There's inappropriate behavior by men all the time, like all the time. That's acceptable, right? Like, I remember when I was younger thinking, oh, this is acceptable, and not going, oh, this is a problem, right?
Right.
So we have that whole gray area there. And then you have a woman like this, woman you're describing, which, whatever. I'm always about whatever floats your boat, as long as you are not physically harming another person. I really don't give a poo-poo what you do.
Right.
I really don't. Because frankly, that's your choice. Is it give mixed messages to people? It can, if they don't have any critical thinking skills themselves. And that's actually what's lacking in our society, by the way, are critical thinking skills. So I can make a good decision or not a good decision, but sometimes you have to go through certain experiences to come to a good decision anyways. And the point is, there is no perfect role model out there. There's no such thing. Usually there's a lot of crap going on behind the scenes that nobody can see. And
right.
That's what I mean. Like when people put that out there, it's like, there is nobody perfect. And don't try to emulate somebody. Figure out what it is you want for yourself that's going to work for you.
And this gets to your book. So how do you figure that out? Like, what are the first steps you take? Because regardless of whether you're in your 20s or whether you're in your 40s, you've made mistakes in the past, or you know what you're looking for. So how do you set that up for yourself so that you move forward in a healthy way?
Well, to move forward in a healthy way, first of all, most of us don't know ourselves. We have ideas of what is appropriate for us based on society's mores, based on our families, based on, oh, that looks good. Okay, I think I want that. So most of us, though, don't really know what we're equipped for, what we really want, and I'm not saying follow your bliss or anything
Right.
like that, but I'm saying most of us really don't know what we want, and we need to have experiences to figure out what we want. But we first have to start with awareness. Like in my book, I talk about awareness. Most of us are aware of everything outside of us, but nothing inside of us. You got to know what makes you tick. You got to know your motivation. You have to know what is the feeling behind it, right? Because if you don't know what you feel, then it's really hard to describe to somebody, hey, this is what I enjoy doing for a job. You could be looking at the money, you could be looking at other things outside of you, but you're not really getting to what the core of you really wants.
The Chris Noth story just, always hits me wrong, because those women knew who he was when they went out on that date. They knew he was Mr. Big. He was famous. So, and then they went back to his house. So now you're bringing it up. To me, it's just, it's really confusing in this society.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I don't pay attention to the news on purpose. So I don't, because it's just emotion. To me, it's like somebody's just emotionally pushing a button all the time. So he's been accused of what?
He's been accused of being sexually inappropriate with women that said no, but then they didn't leave. They continued to spend time with him. They continued to, one woman finally, just didn't answer his text, but I think, the important thing is not, because we don't really care about Chris Noth and his life because he's a celebrity, but it's more like how it mirrors what goes on with women now when you're dating, like with Chris Noth, ahead of time, there's a track record. You could Google him, but you can't really Google like a new guy. Like you meet a guy on Bumble or whatever, and you go out with him. How do you know if he's going to be inappropriate with you? Like, how do you maneuver that? I feel like dating must be so hard now because I think it's harder for me. I would think it's harder to meet somebody on a dating app than in person. Because in person, you get a vibe from somebody. You can tell, like, is this somebody that's sort of familiar? Is it somebody that I kind of like? Or are there warning signs? I think you don't get those warning signs on dating apps.
You do.
Oh, you do? Tell me. Okay, so please help us. Tell us how.
I met my husband on Match.com, by the way.
Did you really?
So,
Cool.
Yeah, I did. I never thought I would do that. And I got to the point, it's a long story, but I got to the point because I really wanted to be in a committed relationship after years of saying I wanted that, but I really did want that. But anyways, first of all, most people, when you're meeting somebody on a dating app, you're going to go meet in public somewhere. You're not going to go come over to my place. I mean, if you are, then you are asking for somebody to come who you don't know, total stranger, and you don't know what you're getting into. But if you're going to meet in a public...
That's Tinder. You were on Match. So I think that
I was also on Tinder, though. I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was. So it's all about an individual. I mean, I hate to group things and go, okay, Tinder's like this, Plenty of Fish is like that. Okay, Cupid's like this, Bumble, whatever. It isn't that. It's really what your intention is. But I don't want to get away from what I was saying. So, when it comes to meeting somebody, it's just like if you were in a bar, right? You're going to meet somebody, you don't know what you're getting. So if you meet somebody from an app at a bar or a coffee house, you're basically starting from that point forward.
That's true. Yeah.
You got to kind of have your spidey sense going anyway. Like, hey, what's happening here? Do I feel comfortable or do I feel like something's off? And a lot of people ignore those signals and put themselves in that kind of a position where they're in a vulnerable position and, I'm going to say no, I don't know what I want, because they think a lot of women get into very wishful thinking, especially with celebrities, like, okay, I'm saying no, but I'm not leaving because I want to hopefully have this guy will change his mind and he'll realize that, I'm Cinderella and he's the prince who's going to save me. We get into these kind of mindsets because you have to ask women, why didn't you leave? What is it you stay for? The same thing if you're a normal person, why are you inviting somebody over and you probably feel some kind of weird vibe?
Right. In your book, Overcoming Insecure Attachment, I don't know if you address this in the book or just what your opinion is in general. What should the first, let's say month of a relationship be? I feel like there's two schools of thought. It's just be having a good time, have fun for a month. And then after that, then get down to the nitty gritty and be like, is this going anywhere? How do you feel? What are you looking for? Like, we just had a great time for a month, but now what? Or should you right up front be like, listen, here's what I'm looking for. And if that's not you, I'm going to cut this off at date 2.
So I think it's the second one. And I'll tell you why. You don't know where the other person is at. And so as beautiful as it sounds, we're having a great time. I guarantee you one person is overthinking the situation, even if they're not saying anything.
Right.
They're thinking in their mind, I wonder if they like me. I wonder. And they're fantasizing about what does that mean? And,
women never do that at all. Women don't overthink relationships and guys. No.
Oh, shut up. Men do it too.
No, we don't.
It's really to be clear about what you want. I'm going to give you an example. And this is a guy example, by the way. Okay. So I had a client many years ago who wanted to get married. He was in his early 30s. And so he was the only one out of his family who wasn't married. He had like 10 brothers and sisters. And so he's like, okay, I got to go dating. So he meets this woman. I'm laughing because of what I'm going to say, because it's not what you think. He tells me, okay, well, I'm really liking her. And this is a few weeks in. I'm like, well, have you asked her what she's looking for? Like, is she looking for a relationship? Does she want kids? Does she know that you're looking to get married? Any of that? No, not yet. Okay. He waited till month 3. He was at Disneyland with her because he loved Disneyland. So he'd take her to Disneyland, and they're at Disneyland. And he's like, so, what do you think about being in a relationship? And she's like, I don't really know if I want a relationship. He's like, oh, do you ever want to get married? She's like, I don't ever want to get married and I don't ever want kids. So he's now spent 3 months with her. And now he is like at the choice point of, what do I do? Because I wanted this and she's not going to be that. So now he's invested that time, that energy, that emotion, all of that. And it's easy. Just ask up front, what are you looking for? It's not hard.
Right. But I think the hard thing is if you say, what are you looking for up front? And they say, I'm looking for something serious and I want kids. And I feel like it also puts pressure on people. I mean, there's got to be a way you can say it that doesn't seem like you're desperate. You know what I mean? Like, I want a marriage and kids. What about you? How do you say it in like a non-confrontational, like, I could be open to that maybe.
Well, because you when you're saying things like this, I'm not putting it on the other person if I'm saying it. I'm not expecting that. It's like I'm dating to get into a relationship, and my eventual goal is to be married and have kids. And when you say it, Like, this is my
I like
goal.
how you just said it. Wait, that was perfect. I want to like tape that right there. That was the way you said it right there was perfect. Because I was, as you were talking about your client, I was thinking of a friend of mine who was still single, by the way. And I asked guys that I had set her up with and other guys that we know, like, what, she's beautiful, she's successful, like what gives? They said, because on a date, it feels like she's interviewing you. It doesn't feel like you're on a date. It feels like, and what's your goal? And what do you got there? And what do you, where you see yourself in 5 years? And what kind of salary would you like out of this situation? You know what I mean? It feels like a job interview. So the way you just said it is the answer. Can you say that again?
Basically, I'm on a date and I'm saying I'm dating and I'm looking to have a relationship. At some point, I'd like to be getting into, I don't know what the hell I said. I said something.
You said it so naturally that it didn't feel like it felt so non-pressure. It felt like such a natural, like, listen, this is what I'm looking for in general. You know, if it's you, great. If it's not, like, no pressure here.
Yes. And but that's the point. And I basically was saying, you know, down the line, my goal is to get married and have kids. So I'm dating towards meeting somebody who I'm going to click with, and we're going to be able to do that. Because if I'm saying it in that way, I'm kind of referring like in third person, but I'm really not putting it on this person. I'm saying these are what my goals are, because you could ask somebody that and they go, you know, I'm just dating to date right now. I'm not really interested in getting in a relationship. Cool. I know what your end game is. You know what my end game is, and our end games don't match.
If it was the second date and you said, I want kids and I want to get married, I would look like that cartoon character that would start running and not move, and just their legs would move, and then they would shoot through the wall.
No, but that's good. That means we've weeded you out. But that means that you are not a candidate for a long-term relationship. You're just a cartoon character.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Is it because you feel like you're all of a sudden responsible? Like, oh, God, I gotta be responsible for this now.
I just want a hand job. That's really all. You're talking about kids, and I'm just looking forward to what's going to happen in about 3 hours.
Okay.
Just dinner and a handy. Yeah. Right.
Somebody should start a dating app called that, by the way.